How could you do this to us, Emily? My father's voice thundered through the kitchen, his words slicing through the air like a whip. His face was lined with fury, his hands gripping the edge of the dining table so tightly his knuckles turned white. My mother stood just behind him, arms wrapped around herself as if she were trying to keep from falling apart. And then there was her. My sister, Lauren, stood casually by the counter, arms crossed over her chest, her face unreadable. The only movement was the slow rise and fall of her chest, as if she were merely observing some unfortunate spectacle instead of watching my life fall apart. I sat at the kitchen table, frozen in place. My heart pounded so violently I could barely breathe, my hands clenched in fists on my lap to stop them from trembling. I had never felt more alone. My name is Emily Carter. I'm 22 years old. Lauren is my older sister, 3 years older, to be exact. We've always looked alike, so much so that people used to mistake us for twins when we were younger. Same deep brown hair, same hazel eyes, same high cheekbones inherited from our mother. But where I had always been the quieter, more reserved one, Lauren was effortlessly confident, always commanding attention without even trying. She was the one who always came out on top. The golden child. The one who never made mistakes. And yet, in this moment, she wasn't standing up for me. She wasn't saying a word in my defense. I don't understand, I finally managed, my voice barely above a whisper. What are you talking about? My father scoffed, his expression twisting with disgust. Don't play dumb, Emily. The bank called. The bank. The apartment is in default. You took out a loan against it, an enormous loan, and you haven't been paying it back. Now they're threatening to take the place unless we come up with the money. What the hell were you thinking? The words crashed over me like a tidal wave. My lungs squeezed, my stomach twisted. That's not possible, I said, shaking my head. I didn't take out any loan. I wouldn't. Oh, so now the bank just made up the documents? He cut me off. This isn't a mistake, Emily. Your signature is on the papers. Your name. Your apartment. I felt the world tilt, everything around me suddenly too sharp, too bright. No, I said, my voice shaking. No, I never signed anything. I never borrowed money. Lauren let out a soft scoff. Come on, Emily. Her voice was cool, detached, like she was speaking to a child caught lying about stealing cookies. Are you really going to sit there and deny it? Your name is all over the paperwork. The loan has been in default for months. Just tell the truth. I turned to her, my pulse hammering. I am telling the truth, I snapped. I didn't do this. She lifted an eyebrow, unimpressed. So what? Someone magically forged your name and took out a massive loan under your identity. She let out a breathy chuckle, shaking her head. That's a bit of a stretch, don't you think? I wanted to scream. I wanted to slam my fists on the table and demand why she, my own sister, was so quick to believe the worst about me. But my father's voice came crashing down again before I could speak. Enough. He straightened, his hands now planted firmly on his hips. His jaw was set in that way that meant he had already made up his mind. I don't know why you're lying. I don't know what you were thinking, but this is beyond irresponsible, Emily. This is selfish. Your mother and I bought you that apartment because we wanted you to have a future. We put ourselves in debt to make sure you wouldn't have to struggle the way we did, and this is how you repay us. I could barely process his words, my thoughts a chaotic mess. Dad, I didn't do this, I pleaded. I swear to you, I have no idea how this happened. Please, you have to believe me. But he just shook his head. I don't believe you, he said simply. The words hit harder than a slap. My voice cracked. I looked at my mother, desperate for some kind of lifeline, for even a flicker of belief in her eyes. But she wouldn't meet my gaze. Her lips were pressed together, her arms still tightly folded. She wasn't defending me. I felt like I was suffocating. You need to take responsibility for this, my father continued, his voice unwavering. If you can't, then you're on your own. Until you fix this mess, You're not welcome in this house. I sucked in a sharp breath, my entire body going cold. He was kicking me out. I swallowed hard, my throat burning, my hands trembling so badly that I had to clench them into fists to keep from breaking completely. You're seriously throwing me out? I whispered. Lauren sighed dramatically, shaking her head. It's probably for the best, she said, her voice almost mocking. Maybe some time away will help you figure out what went wrong here. I turned to her, anger flaring through my veins. You love this, don't you? I said, my voice low, furious. Watching me take the fall for something I didn't do. Her expression didn't change. You did this to yourself. A sharp, bitter laugh bubbled in my throat, but I swallowed it down. I couldn't fall apart now. I pushed back my chair, standing stiffly, my body numb. Fine, I said, voice hollow. I'll go. My father didn't move. My mother still refused to look at me. Lauren watched in silence, her arms still folded like she was witnessing some predictable end to a long-running drama. I left the kitchen without another word. Upstairs, I packed in silence, shoving clothes into a duffel bag, my movements stiff and mechanical. The walls of my childhood room felt unfamiliar now, like they belonged to someone else. Lauren appeared in the doorway, watching me. I refused to look at her. I wish it didn't have to be this way, she said softly. I finally turned to her, my heart slamming against my ribs. Then why aren't you on my side? For the first time, she faltered. Her lips parted, but no words came out. And in that moment, something in her expression made my blood run cold. I don't know what it was, guilt? Hesitation? Or something worse. I clenched my jaw and turned back to my bag. Get out, I muttered. She didn't argue. Minutes later, I walked out of the house, the night air sharp against my tear-streaked face. My father didn't come to see me off. Neither did my mother. Lauren stood at the window, her silhouette barely visible behind the glass. I stared up at her for a long moment, my breath shaky, my fists clenched. Something wasn't adding up. And I was going to figure out what it was. The apartment felt different when I stepped inside that night. Cold. Unfamiliar. Like it didn't belong to me anymore. I dropped my duffel bag on the floor by the door, my hands still shaking. My breath came out in uneven gasps, my mind replaying every second of what had just happened. My father's fury. My mother's silence. Lauren's cold, detached stare. They thought I had done this. They believed I had forged documents, taken out a massive loan, and then just… what? Ignored it? Let it spiral until the bank came knocking? It didn't make sense. I stumbled to the couch and sat down heavily, pressing my palms against my face. My body felt numb, but my mind raced. If I didn't figure this out, I was going to lose everything. My apartment. My reputation. My family. Someone had done this to me. Someone had stolen my name, my identity. And I was going to find out who. The next morning, I woke up groggy, my body stiff from sleeping in a curled-up position on the couch. I hadn't even changed out of my clothes. The weight of last night came crashing back over me the second my eyes opened. I sat up slowly, rubbing my face, then turned toward the coffee table where all the bank documents had been left. I needed answers. I reached for the thick envelope my father had thrown onto the table the night before and pulled out the first few pages. My hands trembled as I flipped through them. There it was, my name, Emily Carter, printed in bold, official letters. And right beneath it, a signature that looked eerily similar to mine. But it wasn't mine. My stomach clenched. Someone had forged my signature. The loan amount was massive, over $80,000. Secured against my apartment. And the payments hadn't been made in months. I checked the dates. The loan had been taken out nearly a year ago. A year. How had I not known? How had I not received any notices before this? Then I saw it. The listed mailing address wasn't mine. It was somewhere else. An address I didn't recognize. My fingers tightened around the paper. Whoever had done this had been intercepting my mail, keeping me in the dark. I took a deep breath, trying to steady the rising panic in my chest. The bank wasn't going to listen to me without proof. I needed to show them I wasn't responsible for this. I needed to gather every single piece of evidence I could find. But where did I start? I spent the next several hours making calls. The bank was my first attempt, but it went about as well as I expected. "We understand your concerns, Ms. Carter," the customer service rep said in a clipped, professional tone. "But the loan was taken out under your name, with valid identification. If you're disputing this as fraudulent, you'll need to file a police report and provide supporting documentation." I squeezed my eyes shut, frustration clawing at my ribs. "Can you at least tell me where the loan was processed? Which branch?" A pause, then a sigh. "One moment." I waited, my heart hammering. A few clicks on the other end of the line. Then, "This loan was processed in person at our downtown branch." I stilled. "In person?" "Yes." The documents were signed at the branch, and an ID was verified by the loan officer at the time. My blood went cold. Whoever had done this had shown up in person, had handed over some kind of ID with my name on it. I swallowed hard. Would there be security footage? That would be up to the bank's fraud department and law enforcement, the rep replied. "Again, if you believe this to be fraudulent, you'll need to file a report." I hung up, my pulse racing. Someone had walked into that bank and pretended to be me. Someone who looked enough like me to pass for me. And I knew only one person who fit that description. Lauren. The thought made me sick. I didn't want to believe it. I couldn't believe it, but it made sense. Lauren and I had always been mistaken for each other, even as kids. And she had been acting so off last night. Dismissive. Too certain of my guilt. Like she knew exactly how things would play out. I paced my apartment, my fingers digging into my arms. I was spiraling, wasn't I? Letting my paranoia run wild? But then I thought about how she had always resented that the apartment was mine. How she had made little jabs over the years about how unfair it was. How her parents had bought it for me, not her, the eldest daughter. I swallowed hard. Could she have really done something like this? The only way to know for sure was to prove it. I spent the next few hours digging. First, I pulled up my bank account. My hands shook as I scrolled through the transactions, looking for anything suspicious. Then I saw them. Small purchases here and there. Charges from stores I never shopped at. Transactions from locations I hadn't been to. And then something bigger, a transaction from 3 months ago at an expensive boutique in a different part of the city. A store I had never stepped foot in. I grabbed my phone and called them. "Thank you for calling Bellamy's Boutique. How can I help you?" I swallowed, gripping the edge of the table. "Hi, I think there was a mistake with a purchase made under my name a few months ago. I was wondering if you have security footage from that day." The woman on the other end hesitated. "Security footage? We usually don't check unless there's been a reported issue. Are you saying this was a fraudulent transaction?" "Yes," I said quickly. "I never made that purchase, but someone did. If I can prove it wasn't me, I can file a report and dispute the charge." The woman sighed. "Well, we do keep footage for 6 months. What's the exact date of the transaction?" I gave her the date. There was a long pause. "You'd have to come in," she said finally. "We can't release footage over the phone, but if you show up in person, we can check." I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. "I'll be there." 2 hours later, I stood in the boutique, my heart hammering as the manager led me to the small back office where the security screens were set up. She scrolled through the footage, clicking through the timestamps until she landed on the right day, the right hour, and then I stopped breathing. On the screen, clear as day, was a woman standing at the counter, handing over a credit card. A woman who looked exactly like me. No, not me. Lauren. She wore sunglasses, but I would have known that posture anywhere. The way she moved, the way she tucked her hair behind her ear. I felt like I was going to throw up. "That's her," I whispered, my voice barely audible. The manager frowned at the screen. "You're saying that's not you?" No, I said, my stomach twisting. That's my sister. A long silence. The manager exhaled. Well, I can provide a copy of this footage if you file a formal request. I nodded, my mind racing. Lauren had done this. She had stolen from me. She had framed me. And now I had proof. I sat in my car outside the boutique, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. My heart was still hammering in my chest, my stomach a twisted mess of anger, disbelief, and something else, something heavier. It was real. I had proof. Lauren had done this. She had stolen my identity, taken out a massive loan, spent thousands using my name. Let me take the fall for everything while she stood in that kitchen last night, watching me with that blank, indifferent stare. I closed my eyes, trying to steady my breathing. I had the footage now, or at least, I would once I officially requested it. That boutique manager had said it would take a few days, but I could file the request with the bank too. If Lauren had walked into one store and impersonated me, she'd done it elsewhere. There had to be a paper trail. She must have been so sure she would never get caught. I clenched my jaw, my nails digging into my palm. She thought she was smarter than me, but I wasn't going to let her get away with this. Back at my apartment, I spread out every document I had, trying to piece it all together. I wrote down everything I knew. The loan was taken out a year ago. My signature was forged. The mailing address on the bank's paperwork wasn't mine. Lauren had been spending a lot of money lately, but never explained where it was coming from. She had used my name and ID at that boutique, and who knew where else? I needed more. I picked up my phone and started searching through old messages, emails, anything that could give me a lead. Then I remembered, Lauren had moved last year. Not far, just across the city, but at the time, she'd been vague about the details. Had she used that address for the mail? I dug through my contacts and found her old roommate's number, a girl named Rachel. We had never been close, but I had met her a few times when Lauren lived with her. I hesitated for only a second before pressing call. Rachel picked up on the third ring. Hello? Hey, Rachel. It's Emily Carter. A pause. Oh! Hey. She sounded surprised. It's been a while. What's up? I took a deep breath, forcing my voice to stay even. I know this is random, but I need to ask you something about Lauren. When she lived with you last year, did she ever get mail that wasn't hers? Like, anything with my name on it? Another pause. Longer this time. Then, yeah, actually, Rachel said slowly. A few times, I remember seeing stuff with your name on it. I thought it was weird, but she said it was just a mix-up with the bank and she'd take care of it. Why? My fingers tightened around my phone. My pulse roared in my ears. Rachel, I said carefully. Did she ever mention taking out a loan? A loan? Rachel sounded confused. No, I don't think so. But, she hesitated. But what? She did have a ton of expensive new stuff back then. I remember joking about it once, like, wow, did you win the lottery or something? And she got really weird about it, like she didn't want to explain. A heavy weight settled in my chest. Lauren had been living under the same roof as Rachel when she took out that loan. And she had been intercepting the bank's letters before they ever reached me. I swallowed hard. Rachel, do you still live at that same place? Nah, I moved a few months ago. But I still have some old mail that got forwarded to me. There might be some of Lauren's stuff in there. Do you want me to check? Yes, I said quickly. Please. Anything with my name on it, can you let me know? Yeah, of course. I'll look tonight and text you. Thank you. I ended the call, my entire body buzzing with adrenaline. Now I had two leads. 1. Security footage proving Lauren had impersonated me. 2. A possible paper trail linking her to my stolen identity. I had no idea how deep this went, but one thing was clear, Lauren had been planning this for a long time. She hadn't just stolen my identity on impulse. She had set me up. The next day, I went to the bank in person. I walked in with my head high, gripping the stack of documents I had gathered. My stomach churned with nerves, but I refused to let it show. The loan officer, a woman in her 40s with sharp eyes, glanced up when I approached her desk. "How can I help you?" "My name is Emily Carter," I said. "I need to file a fraud claim." Her expression didn't change. "Do you have proof of fraud?" I set my documents down on her desk. "Yes." I walked her through everything: my forged signature, the false mailing address, the security footage I was waiting on from the boutique. I told her how I had never seen any of the bank's notices until last night because they had been sent somewhere else. She flipped through the papers, frowning. "This is serious," she said after a moment. "But if the loan was taken out in person, we'll need to verify the ID that was used. Can you check the security footage from when the loan was processed?" I asked. She tapped on her keyboard. "It depends on our retention policy, but I can put in a request." My hands curled into fists under the desk. "Please let the footage still exist." A few minutes passed before she looked back up at me. "The request has been sent to our fraud department. It may take a few days, but if the footage shows someone else using your identity, that will be enough to support your claim." I exhaled slowly. It wasn't immediate, but it was something. "Thank you," I said. She gave me a small nod. "I'd also recommend filing a police report. If fraud is confirmed, we'll need an official record." I nodded, standing up. "I'll do that next." That night, Rachel texted me a picture of a letter. A letter addressed to me. The sender? The loan company. And the address? Lauren's old apartment. My hands shook as I stared at the screen. Lauren had stolen my identity. She had taken out a loan in my name. She had forged my signature. And she had been so sure she would never get caught. But now, I had everything I needed. Proof. Documents. Security footage on the way. She had framed me. She had let me be thrown out of my family's house, humiliated in front of our parents, accused of something I never did. I clenched my jaw, my heart pounding with fury. I wasn't just going to prove my innocence. I was going to make her face the truth. I sat in my car outside my parents' house, gripping the steering wheel so tightly my fingers ached. The engine was still running, the dull hum vibrating through my bones. My heart pounded so loudly in my ears that I barely heard anything else. This was it. I had everything I needed. The security footage. The fraudulent bank documents. The letter that had been sent to Lauren's old apartment with my name on it. Proof that she had set me up. And now, she was going to face it. I took a shaky breath and turned off the engine. The house loomed in front of me, warm lights glowing through the windows. It was ridiculous how normal it looked, like nothing had changed. Like my whole world hadn't fallen apart just days ago. I stepped out of the car, clutching the folder of evidence in my hands, and walked up to the front door. My stomach twisted as I rang the doorbell. A few seconds later, my mother opened the door. Her face was tired, her eyes wary, but she stepped aside without a word to let me in. The air inside was thick with tension. My father stood near the fireplace, arms crossed, his face unreadable. Lauren sat on the couch, casually flipping through her phone, as if she wasn't expecting anything serious. When she saw me, her eyes flickered with something unreadable. But she didn't move. I swallowed hard, stepping into the room. "Emily," my father said, his voice careful. "Why are you here?" I took a deep breath and held up the folder. "Because I have proof," I said, my voice stronger than I expected. "Proof that I didn't take that loan. Proof that someone else did, using my name." Lauren's posture stiffened ever so slightly, but she didn't say a word. I turned to my father, meeting his gaze head-on. "I need you to listen to me this time. No interruptions. No assumptions. Just listen." For a long moment, no one spoke. Then my father gave a single nod. "Go on." I walked to the coffee table, laid the folder down, and pulled out the first document. "This," I said. Placing it in front of them, is a copy of the loan agreement. The one I supposedly signed. I tapped the signature line. But this isn't my signature. My mother hesitated. Emily. No, I cut in. Look at it. You've seen me sign things before. Do you really think this is mine? My father frowned, leaning in. His eyes scanned the document, his brows furrowing. I didn't wait for him to say anything. I pulled out the next piece of evidence. And this, I continued, is a letter from the bank. Addressed to me, but sent to Lauren's old apartment. I slid the letter across the table, watching my parents' faces as realization started to dawn. Lauren hadn't moved. She just sat there, still as a statue, her hands clenched in her lap. And if that's not enough, I said, my voice shaking slightly, I also went to Bellamy's boutique, the one where someone used my name to make expensive purchases. They had security cameras. I reached into the folder, pulled out a printed still from the footage, and placed it on the table. A grainy but undeniable image of Lauren standing at the counter, handing over a credit card with my name on it. Silence. A thick, suffocating silence. My father picked up the paper, staring at it for what felt like an eternity. My mother let out a soft gasp, one hand covering her mouth. And Lauren? Lauren finally moved. She let out a slow breath and leaned back against the couch, her lips pressing together in a tight line. Lauren, my mother whispered, shaking her head. Tell me this isn't true. My sister didn't answer right away. She looked at the photo again, at the undeniable proof, and then, finally, she laughed. A soft, humorless, broken sound. Well, she murmured, I guess there's no point in denying it now, is there? My mother let out a choked noise, stepping back as if she had been physically struck. My father's expression hardened, his hands curling into fists. You did this? He asked, his voice dangerously low. Lauren lifted one shoulder in a half-hearted shrug. Yeah, she said. I did. A cold, bitter silence filled the room. I stared at her, my chest aching, my pulse roaring in my ears. Why? I whispered. Why would you do this to me? Lauren finally met my gaze. And for the first time, I saw it, something raw and ugly flickering behind her eyes. Because, she said, her voice sharp, it should have been mine. My breath caught in my throat. What? She stood up slowly, arms still crossed, but there was something shaking in her stance now. That apartment, she said, her voice dripping with resentment. It should have been mine, Emily. Not yours. I was the eldest. I was the one struggling to pay rent, while you got a free ride. Mom and Dad bought you a damn apartment when you turned 18. Do you have any idea what that felt like? I blinked, completely thrown off. Lauren. She laughed again, shaking her head. You got everything, Emily. The perfect little apartment, no rent, no stress. And what did I get? A pat on the back and a figured out Lauren. My father's jaw clenched. That's not fair. Isn't it? She snapped, turning to face him now. You told me when I was 18 that we didn't have the money to help me. That I had to work for everything. And then, 4 years later, suddenly there's money for Emily? Suddenly, she gets everything handed to her. My mother's face crumpled. We never meant. But you did, Lauren shot back. Her voice was shaking now, all that rage, all that bitterness bubbling over. You picked her. You made her life easier, and I got left behind. I felt a lump rise in my throat. Lauren, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. That doesn't justify what you did. She exhaled sharply, rubbing her temples. I know, she admitted, her voice quieter now. I know I messed up. I didn't plan for it to go this far, but once I started, I couldn't stop. The money kept running out, and I panicked. I stared at her, my mind spinning. She resented me. This had nothing to do with the money. It was about the years of jealousy, the feeling of being overlooked. And now it had come to this. My father took a deep breath, his face unreadable. You're going to fix this. Lauren, he said, his voice steady. You're going to pay back every cent. You're going to clear Emily's name, and if you don't, I know, she murmured. You'll call the police. The weight of her words settled over all of us. I clenched my fists. Do it, I said, my voice cold. Fix it. Lauren swallowed, then nodded. I will. But even as she said it, I knew nothing would ever be the same again. I walked out of my parents' house feeling like I had just run a marathon. My legs were weak, my hands were still trembling, and my chest felt tight from holding back the mix of anger and heartbreak swelling inside me. The night air was cold, crisp against my tear-streaked face. I didn't even realize I had been crying until I wiped at my cheeks. Lauren had admitted it. She had looked me in the eye and admitted what she had done. But instead of feeling victorious, I just felt hollow. She wasn't sorry for what she did, at least, not in the way that mattered. She was sorry she got caught. She was sorry she had to face what she had done. But the way she spoke, the way she said it should have been hers. She still thought she was the victim. That was what hurt the most. For the next few weeks, everything felt surreal. Lauren, true to her word, began fixing what she broke. She met with the bank, admitted to the forgery, and begged them not to press charges. She used her savings, sold off some of her expensive things, and took out a personal loan to start paying back every cent. She wrote a statement for the fraud department, clearing my name. The bank, after much back and forth, finally removed the debt from my records. The foreclosure threats on my apartment stopped. My name was no longer attached to her mess. It should have felt like a win. But every time my parents called me, their voices heavy with guilt, every time I saw a missed message from Lauren that I ignored, every time I lay awake at night replaying everything, it didn't feel like a win. It felt like something I could never get back. One afternoon, I sat on my couch, staring at my phone. A text from Lauren lingered on the screen, unread. I sent the final paperwork to the bank. You should be officially cleared now. Let me know if there's anything else I need to do. I stared at the words for a long time. She was trying, in her own way. I wanted to believe it was enough. I wanted to believe that maybe one day we could be normal sisters again. But then I remembered the way she looked at me that night, the resentment still burning behind her eyes, the way she still believed she was the one who had been wronged. And I just couldn't. I put my phone down without replying. The following week, my parents invited me to dinner. I hesitated before saying yes. The last time I had been in that house, my father had looked me in the eye and told me he didn't believe me. I wasn't sure I could ever forget that, but they were trying to. And deep down, I still wanted to believe they loved me. When I walked through the front door that evening, my mother pulled me into a tight hug. I missed you, she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. I swallowed hard, nodding. Me too. My father stood near the dining table, hands in his pockets. He looked older, more tired. When I met his eyes, he cleared his throat. Emily, He hesitated, then shook his head. I don't even know where to start. I folded my arms. An apology would be a good place. He let out a breath. I'm sorry. For everything. For not believing you. For kicking you out. For all of it. He rubbed his forehead. I should have listened to you. I should have known. My throat tightened. Yeah, you should have. A painful silence stretched between us. Then he nodded. I hope one day you can forgive me. I didn't answer right away, because I wasn't sure if I could. But at least he was asking. That was more than I could say for Lauren. She wasn't there that night. When I finally asked why, my mother's expression turned pained. She left town for a while, she said softly. She said she needed space. I almost laughed. She needed space? After what she had done? I clenched my jaw, staring down at my plate. Right. She's ashamed. Emily, my father said quietly. I scoffed. She should be. She wasn't thinking, my mother added. She was angry. She made a choice, I cut in. My hands trembled as I set down my fork. She knew what she was doing. She knew what would happen to me. She just didn't care. Neither of them had an answer to that, because they knew it was true. When I left that night, my mother walked me to the door. She hesitated, then squeezed my hands. "I know this doesn't fix everything," she murmured. "But I love you, Emily. I hope you know that." I exhaled slowly. "I love you too, Mom." It was the truth. But love wasn't enough to erase what had happened. Weeks passed. The weight of the situation eased, but it never fully left me. I still woke up some nights with the same ache in my chest, remembering the way Lauren had looked me in the eye and blamed me for what she did. I still ignored most of her messages. And maybe that made me a bad person. But I wasn't ready. I didn't know if I'd ever be ready. One evening, as I sat in my apartment, finally safe again, I stared at my phone. A single text from Lauren lingered on the screen. "I know you probably don't want to hear from me. I get it. But I wanted to say I'm sorry. For real. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I hope someday you can." I stared at it for a long time. Then, slowly, I typed out a response. "I don't know if I can. Not yet." I hovered over the send button. Then, before I could overthink it, I pressed it. It wasn't forgiveness. But it was a start.